Once in a while, once in a while, once in a while.
The local Seattle rock scene was developing the first rumblings of a new global sound way before Nirvana appeared on the scene. What we know now as grunge was a product of Seattle's isolated northwestern location, far from outside music influences. Washington State, however, was big enough to support a local rock club circuit, and there were plenty of bands able to support themselves in this way. So why was it Nirvana that finally introduced the sound to an increasingly desperate waiting world?
I think Nirvana was successful because it was the best underground band ever. In musical terms, there is no punk band to match them. Cobain's songwriting is nonpareil. I think that by the time they made it, they were just good enough technically to pull it off. And I think that this extreme moral seriousness and at the same time the anarchic goons-like silliness of the band appealed to children of all ages. You know, it fulfilled the original dream of rock and roll to keep us young forever.
Catchy songs, I mean, you can hum them. And you can play them on an acoustic guitar and sing them around the campfire. That's how strong the melodies are and how simple the songs are. I mean, that's something that is really overlooked in a lot of popular music nowadays, where people concentrate on the rhythm and the beat and the attitude, and they forget about the hook. And their songs were all hooks, all about the hooks, really.
A lot of that's Nirvana music. My wife collected it. Yeah, and every time I knew when they'd come out, she'd buy it. And I never did like it until I saw Kurt, I think it was on MTV, where he was just sitting out there playing the guitar and singing. Then you didn't have all that noise from the drums and the other hollering and hooting and stuff. And I thought it was pretty good then.
I think it was the voice first, the lyrics second. The band was a good band, but the band did several different kinds of music. So I think the band was, you know, the band rocked and the band was competent. And it was, especially once Dave joined, the fact that Kurt was a ratty guitar player kind of made it even better, you know, where maybe Chad was a ratty drummer with a ratty guitar player and a ratty bass player, so once they had a big drummer to hang all the ratty shit off of, it made more sense.
People credit them for their innovation. Expression of emotion in his singing and in his voice that is, like, that's more unique than the music, I think.
Right, but Kurt, you know, wasn't necessarily a Jimi Hendrix. He would get clear up on the fretboard and play bizarre, distorted noises, you know, and mess around for a long time with noises like that, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
And record it, and then
his early tapes of just him playing guitar and singing that he'd make to a boombox were really horrible. Yeah. And I didn't, until he recorded that demo that became Incesticide with Indino, I thought, yeah, Kurt's band, you know, that'll be great.
And he definitely talked about creating a band even as early as being 12 years old. A lot of us talked about that at the time, and so it was just kind of, you know, conversation more. But, you know, you'd think he probably was more serious about it than a lot of people gave him credit for, even at that time.
On Novoselic's part, he is a very talented bass player. But he also, I think, intuitively drove these songs. He was kind of the glue that really held the band together. Dave Grohl is just simply a tremendous drummer. in my opinion, probably one of the greatest rock drummers, certainly of modern times. He hit the drums with such a power that you wondered that they weren't going to break. And I saw a number of shows where he did break the drums.
Kurt, he had the look, he had the lyrics. You know, they had the type of sound that I think people were waiting for, that Generation X, you know. They were waiting for something like this to arrive, and certainly it did, and it blasted.
There aren't any other bands, as far as I'm concerned, that come close to what they were and what they could have been, for me, individually.
It's true that Kurt Cobain was the soul of Nirvana in terms of his songwriting and his artistic vision. But I think that all three of these individuals played a huge part in the success and creation of this band. And without Novoselic and Grohl, this would not have been the same thing.
Once in a while, once in a while, once in a while. I'll move on to the next Nirvana now. No, I'm not bored, just gone inside.
Kurt Cobain was born in Aberdeen, Washington in 1967. Situated near the coast, Aberdeen lies a world away from the bright lights of the city, surrounded by rolling mountains, never-ending forests, and continual rain. The whole town is dominated by the region's one and only major industry, logging. During Kurt's childhood, the logging industry suffered enormously, the impact from which permeates every aspect of the region. But Kurt grew up a happy kid who showed an artistic talent from an early age, as his grandfather remembers.
There's Kurt when he was a little guy. There's when he was a little bit bigger. Right from the start, he was a hell of an artist. One time he come over to the house when we lived in Aberdeen. Him and his folks come over to the house, and he had a picture, and he came up and he said, "Look at Grandpa, he had a picture of Mickey Mouse that he drew. He was 6 years old." And I said, "You didn't draw that." I said, "You traced that." He got sort of mad. He said, "Yes, I did too draw that." And he says, "I'll draw you another one." He said, "I'll draw you a Donald Duck." And he sat down then on a piece of paper and drew me a Donald Duck. I got it in here yet.
In 1976, at the age of 9, Kurt's parents divorced. Kurt moved to the nearby town of Montesano with his father, transferring to Beacon Elementary School. Here he met one of his long-lasting school friends, Darren Nevery.
When I first met Kurt, it was, I want to say like 1975. We were in the 4th grade, and he was just a new kid that came in, and he was very shy, but he did have a very good sense of humor. And he loved like Saturday Night Live and all the comedy and things like that. So he was quiet and reserved at times, especially in his younger years. But the more you got to know him, he was a lot of fun to be around.
I don't know. I remember him as a good kid. Is the way I remember him. He always helped around here when he lived with us.
He definitely had highs and lows. A lot of times he was a very happy kid, but then there was a lot of times when his mood would be down in the dumps. Things would come up, especially if it was around, say something was focused around divorce, like his parents or things like that. He did have some times where, certain things he was uncomfortable about, or just, he'd have a hard time, be in a bad mood, like most kids, but he had a lot of happy times too.
Kurt's dad, when he was a little guy, he took steel guitar lessons, and we still had the guitar, and we give it to Kurt.